video. Thank you so much, Lyft, for sharing that and for being our platinum sponsor for the event this year, today, and into tomorrow. I know we are waiting. I am moderating this panel today, which is the International Cannabis Industry panel. We're just waiting on some of our speakers. As Katie mentioned, this one is a stacked conversation today. We have Charlotte Bowyer, Laura Eder, we have Priya, Mishra, and Barinder, Rasode. All kinds of folks from different parts of the world, which is fantastic. Everybody, thank you for chiming in, whether it's early, late, I'm not entirely sure. I believe we, as far as India right now, coming from Priya. Oh, there she is there. Excellent. Hi, Laura. Hello, Ulla. Ulla coming to us from Switzerland. Charlotte's in BC, right?
Yeah, I am.
Excellent, excellent. There's Priya. Lovely. And we're just waiting on Barinder now.
Namaste. Yep.
Hi, Priya. It's late over there, right?
Yes, it's almost 12:15 right now.
Yeah.
15 minutes past midnight, but it's a full moon night, so pretty much we all are up. We've been having a little ritual, and yes, pretty excited about the conference as well.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us and tuning in so late. We're just waiting on one more right now, I believe. Let me just check the chat here. There we go. It's actually great. Like Katie mentioned, usually these events ends up becoming behind on schedule, but we're actually on schedule. Woohoo! So this is fantastic. So we've got a couple extra minutes here. Hi, Ulla. What time is it over there?
Oh, it's almost 9 o'clock in the evening.
We keep catching you very, very late. Ulla is also part new this year to our advisory committee as well. So thank you for all of your insight and supporting the 2021 WWC event.
Happy to be here.
Excellent. Okay, well, I think we can probably go ahead and kick it off if everybody's ready. What I'll do is I'll work around the screen here, get you to introduce yourself, where you're from, and then we will dive into some of the questions and conversation, as well as a follow-up Q&A at the end. So I am going to start with Laura. You're just first to my left there. Go ahead, Laura.
Hi. I want to thank you all for having me join the panel. I am very honored to be a part of such a prestigious group of ladies. I am Laura Eder. I am the Director of Regulatory Affairs and Quality Assurance at Vantage Hemp, which is located in Greeley, Colorado. I just recently joined the team here, which is an ever-growing team, and I am really excited to be part of such a fabulous company.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining with us, Laura. And then over to you, Ulla.
My name is Ulla. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at CannaSwiss. We are a Swiss company. We have a consumer brand. We have bulk ingredients. We ship all over the world, but primarily sell our brand in Europe. I'm happy to be here. Looking forward.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ulla. And Charlotte, over to you.
Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm head of consulting at Haaning Associates. We are a cannabis-specific advisory firm. We focus on the European sector, so working with companies either looking to enter Europe as a market or kind of set up their operations there. So whether that's a kind of a mix of European startups, established LPs, or other kind of companies looking to enter the sector, we kind of help with a range of strategy, compliance, comms, sort of M&A, and helping with partnerships. So we're focused in Europe, but I am based out in Vancouver on the West Coast, so I get to enjoy the kind of Canadian cannabis culture and start to build it back in Europe as well.
Thank you for joining us, Charlotte. And Charlotte and I met at one of our first events in person with Candora Connect out in BC a few years ago now. Hopefully one day we'll get these in person again.
Absolutely, really looking forward to it. It'll be great.
One day soon. Priya, I will switch it over to you. Share a little bit about yourself and your business.
Sure. Namaste, and thank you for such a great opportunity. First of all, my name is Priya Mishra. I'm better known as Hempathy around the globe. I am India's first female cannabis activist. I've been active and vocal for the last 7 years. working on the legalization in the front along with the government for the last 4 years. Been successful in 8 states in the country right now. Hoping to be, to be able to pull a national level legalization along with, others in the industry. And empathy is an education, forum. Apart from that, I'm also a director of a biotech company called Veerpatra, which is based out of India. And we assist farmers who make products or who cultivate to basically give them a market and sell these products at a fair trade price, considering that they can barely even sign their own names. So getting consumers become a very difficulty in a place like India. And hence, that's what exactly we do. Yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we have seen you very active on social. So I'll be sure our tech is going to drop everybody's social handles into the conversation to make sure our registrants do connect with you. But it's been lovely following you, through social media. I'm going to flip it over to you, Barinder. Go ahead and make your introduction.
Hi, my name is Barinder Rasode. I am the founder and CEO of Grow Tech Labs. Grow Tech Labs is a company based out of Vancouver, BC that supports pre-legalization cultivators, processors, and brands to get into the regulated market. Our first year, we helped fund a number of companies, including the Startup Dollars for the BC Craft Farmers Co-op. I'm also one of the founders of Haven Life, which is a psychedelic and nutraceutical company that we took public last fall. And I'm very excited to see all of these smiling faces and learn. The opportunities are so far, non-existent in terms of human connection during COVID. And I just want to recognize the team for pulling this off and giving us this opportunity.
Thank you, Barinder. And we couldn't have done it without your support as well. Barinder is also one of our advisors for the WWC and again has helped form the event today and in tomorrow. So thank you very much for all of your support. Okay, I'm going to flip over to lots of questions that I want to ask, lots of conversations we want to get through in a very short amount of time. I'm going to flip it over to Charlotte to start off. What we would like to know is how has the industry in Europe transformed over the last 5 years, and where do you see it heading in the next 5?
Gosh, okay, that's a big question. So I'm going to try and do a whistle stop tour, maybe the key aspects there. So I guess what's really fantastic about this industry is that 5 years ago, there was pretty much, the kind of European cannabis industry was sort of like almost non-existent, or at least very kind of fragmented and very kind of like activist driven. It wasn't really a kind of a commercial opportunity at all. I think, I moved over to Canada in 2018, sort of looking at the cannabis sector, and Haaning, when I sort of joined there, was one of the first companies in Europe kind of really trying to bring these things together. So I guess in terms of, medical cannabis, it was sort of very, very limited. We hadn't sort of seen countries sort of legalize access to stuff like cannabis flower really. By this stage, we had like very limited kind of access to some pharmaceutical preparations, but again, very, very tightly controlled. When you looked at stuff like CBD, it was basically non-existent. I think it kind of hadn't really sort of entered the market in Europe, as I think, across North America too. And recreational, we've sort of had sort of quasi-legal systems operating in the Netherlands and Spain for a while, but there wasn't really kind of any significant momentum. So I think we've kind of gone from this to today, where we've got, a kind of growing medical sector, where we're starting to see proper access coming through and sustainable industries emerge, through to CBD, where I think it is the sort of biggest consumer market outside of America. And actually on rec, which I can maybe chat about a bit later if you want, we're starting to really see some progress happening with countries looking to legalize properly and actually put in proper legal framework. So that's really exciting. So in 5 years' time, what I think we're going to see really is this medical sort of properly take hold. I think Europe's going to continue to go down quite a pharmaceutical route. I think we've always had sort of medical cannabis as part of our existing pharmaceutical framework, which means, a lot of physician oversight, prescriptions for medicines. And I think that kind of trend will continue, and we'll see things going down a kind of conventional medicines route, but hopefully with much wider kind of patient access, more conditions that are being prescribed for, more healthcare coverage, which is a big driver in Europe particularly. I think with CBD, we'll really start to see the regulatory frameworks evolve. Countries have been kind of grappling with this over the last couple of years. And I think we'll start to see proper pathways so that you can compliantly sell your products in multi-country markets. I think that will mean that we'll see a lot of sort of FMG operators come in as well, and this real focus on sort of brand and you know, kind of consumer development. And I think along the rec side, probably within the next 5 years, I would be confident in saying there'll be at least a handful of European countries that have actually properly legalized recreational cannabis. And I think that's going to be a big driver of sort of interest and investment into Europe as well. And when that opens up, I think that will be very, very exciting for the sector as a whole.
All great points. Absolutely agree. Does anybody want to touch on in regards to Europe, or particularly, you know, where you are located as far as the transformation, maybe in 5 years? Does anybody else have something? Ulla?
Yeah. Well, we both do skincare and dietary supplements. And just within the last year, a lot have happened in Europe. We have submitted a novel food application in UK. We are allowed to sell our products in UK as long as there's no THC in. So all our CBD food supplements, dietary supplements are on the market in UK because we were there prior to March 2020. So we're allowed to sell. And in the rest of Europe, they have also opened up for, accepting to at least look at the applications. So it's a really positive vibe. So hopefully within 24 months, we'll see CBD being accepted into the novel food catalog, both in UK and the rest of Europe. That's a game changer. We already now see that both CBD and CBG is accepted in skincare products. So fully legal to market and sell in European countries.
Amazing. Thank you, Ulla. I'll take a shift, just kind of touching on the future of, but moving over to Laura. What is your company at Vantage? What's the vision for the future, and what unique qualities or philosophies does Vantage contribute towards that future?
Hi there. I would say Vantage's vision for the future is to move towards the pharmaceutical grade CBD so we can pave the way for clinical studies. As soon as we complete the validations of our processes and complete our stability studies, I plan on filing a DMF with the FDA and similar dossiers throughout rest of world health agencies. I would say one of our unique qualities at Vantage is that our product quality is confirmed at every step of our process, not just at the end. We do full panel testing, which includes micro, heavy metals, pesticides, residual solvents, and that starts from our incoming biomass, and it goes right down to our CO2 and our hydrocarbon crude, as well as our full spectrum oil, our distillate, and our isolate, all getting tested as it is a final product. Our processes are continually monitored for trends to ensure that the processes are operating within the equipment operating ranges, the process perimeters, and the quality. Vantage Hemp has continued improvement with the team culture approach, which is one of the things that I really loved, and that's why I joined the team here. They have open communication. All employees feel really comfortable sharing their ideas for improvements in problem solving. And we have achieved the highest levels of GMP compliance with acquiring our SGS certifications for Annex 2 WHO for pharmaceutical products, as well as our Q7 GMP for active pharmaceutical ingredients. So I would say Vantage Hemp is definitely set apart with our high quality extracts and isolate.
Amazing. Thanks for that, Laura. Okay, I want to probably throw to both Barinder and Priya on this one. I'll start with you, Barinder. What sort of obstacles need to be overcome for cannabis products to be destigmatized and more widely accepted in conservative countries?
That's actually an excellent question, and I think one of the challenges that's been highlighted on this panel already. It's how do you treat cannabis products? Is it going to be pharmaceutical grade, or are we going to be lobbying for it to be more of a natural health product, especially in the area of topicals? So I think because there's a lack of clarity, and then definitely for me, my heritage, even being Canadian, but recognizing that it took me 4 months to tell my parents what I was going to do, just sort of cultural stigma around cannabis or even CBD is still quite high. But we are looking at now at more conservative companies embracing the conversation around CBD, not yet willing to really open their eyes on the value of THC as being, a plant that enables people to have better health in so many categories. So I think the challenge is for sure that Canada has created by over-regulating and the market, the full market potential not being realized as countries looking at going down this political challenge of challenging cultural norms when they don't really see a value. We haven't, had that gold rush that was anticipated post legalization. I'm quite convinced we're about 12 months out. I think it's still on the horizon. So we have the challenge of stereotyping and the lack of true facts on the benefits of cannabis as a healing product. We have overregulation in a country that is legalized nationally, thus causing other countries to question whether they want to take on this fight and challenge people's stereotypes when there's no value. And then I do think that for the real potential for any company in the cannabis space, just because of sheer market size, is to do international business. And how do these conversations then make it to the table when our own government, even in the last election, the first election, they showcased this as one of their main, campaign platforms, but in the election following, they didn't even want to mention cannabis legalization. So if the country that was supposed to be flying the flag is now sort of stepped onto the sidelines, that's a big challenge for us. And my perspective always comes not only from social and economic, but political drives a really big, it's a bulldozer, and that bulldozer isn't there yet for the industry. So that's a significant challenge.
Absolutely, I would agree with you for sure. Now, Priya, could you speak a little bit to that with the history of India and cannabis in India and some context and how it is today?
Sure. First of all, I think I, resonate with Barinder over here, considering though she has Indian heritage, but she wasn't in India and I am in India pretty much on ground, working on cannabis as a plant, medical, industrial, and for the past 1 year, I have been very vocal on the recreational front because if recreational was not available, I wouldn't have got access to the medical. Recreational was available illegally. Now, the beauty of this country, though it is a conservative country, India, the painting that you see behind is of Shiva. Now, Shiva is eternally associated with the plant cannabis. So to complete his rituals, there's something called Rudra Abhishek. You really need that plant, and it's written in our scriptures. So you can understand from, the God's God, as we Hindus or, the Indians call Shiva. It's embedded in our culture to utilize this very plant for religious sacrament, and hence, even as far as the laws are concerned, there is a right to religion, and under right to religion, one is allowed to utilize cannabis. And hence, during the festivals like Holi and Shivratri, there is an open trade of the plant. There's an open trade not only of the plant, the raw plant, but also the edibles. Like thandai, it's known as thandai. It's a milkshake made out of, cannabis, sweets out of it. So over here, unfortunately, what's happening is there is an extreme. There are people on one level who understand the religious sacrament and utilize the plant. And there are people on the extreme level which have, who have taken this plant into 3 different parts and 500 plus compounds. Now, the good thing about India right now as we talk is, as I mentioned earlier, we have legalized 8 states in India, and the way we are pushing, we are heading towards the national legalization, at least for medical cannabis. The economy, for India regarding cannabis has been very beautiful as far as the investments were concerned. But the output of it has not been that great for a simple fact that it's still taking time and 2 years delay because of the pandemic, definitely. But there is everything from hemp seed to the shirt that I'm wearing right now. This is hemp linen that I'm wearing, pretty much made out in India right now as we talk. Apart from that, there is THC 1000 mg medicine available for cancer patients, manufactured, cultivated in India. So there are laws available for industrial and medical, which never fell under the NDPS. what fell under the narcotics, NDPS is basically the Narcotics Act. What fell under the narcotics is the recreational bit, which again, hopefully in the next few years, we will see, we will see something good happening in the recreational front. As far as the government stand is concerned, India is just the opposite of what US has been. So federally or on a national level, the Prime Minister's office has supported the medical and the industrial cannabis industry and has given the rights to the state if they can handle it or no. And hence there is a delay because states are taking their own sweet time, A, to pass the law, B, to make a public policy. So, hoping with this, with this entire understanding of cannabis, COVID, even in COVID, cannabis is helping. There's a global, understanding of the multi-billion-dollar industry that it is, the job employment it's creating. We are looking at a August to December national level medical cannabis legalization. Having said that, my patients are still getting medicines every part of the country. So doctors are prescribing in India legally, patients are getting their medicines, but it's not getting cultivated everywhere, So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Priya. I'm going to switch a little bit because I want to talk about the education side of things, maybe the consumer, but I'm going to go over to you, Ulla. What are some of the benefits you enjoy in educating people on with regards to cannabis and the holistic lifestyles? And then I'm going to switch it over to Laura after this.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
Well, I think the individual molecules are very powerful in themselves, but combined, as you know, them more familiar, called the entourage effect, is also great. But what we see if we look at, pharmaceutical studies is that if you combine, let's see, CBD with antibiotics, then all of a sudden you have a product that potentially can fight off MRSA with regular antibiotics. This gives me hope that when we combine CBD with vitamins and other powerful ingredients, that perhaps it fuels the uptake of these ingredients. And this is something that we are going to look much more into in the near future, both for skincare, but also for dietary supplements, because it would be amazing if we basically would absorb a lot more of all the stuff, all the good things that we basically eat every day. So this is one of the things. But I think CBD really helps people to open their eyes towards health and wellness, because it is such a powerful ingredient that, some people use it to sleep at night. Some people use it to relax during the day. It could be gums, soft gums, oil, tinctures, patches. So I do believe that it's an eye-opener into a more healthy lifestyle. We try to always encourage our target group to, it's not enough to just take dietary supplements. You need to have a holistic approach, your mental health, your exercise routines, and of course, whatever your diet as well every day, and dietary supplements.
Thank you. Does anybody want to touch on to sort of the benefits of education around it? No? Okay, I'll move over to Laura. Similar regard, what sorts of cannabis-related myths have you had to debunk in your conversation around consumer education?
I would say when I started in the industry a few years ago, there was very little understanding between the difference of THC in marijuana and CBD and industrial hemp. So that was kind of stage one. I think that's kind of been out there now, and it's in mainstream, and most of the population can decipher, at least here in the States, between the two. Because you can walk into any corner store, gas station, pharmacy, pretty much anywhere, and you can come across product. So now I feel the education really comes towards trying to let consumers know where the good products are. Unfortunately, it's not regulated here in the States on a federal level. So We don't have any kind of standardization. We have people that are making product, in their backyard garage, all the way up to, our facility here, which is a pharma grade, GMP facility. So in most cases, I would say, to educate consumers, even when it comes down to my family and friends who are saying, what should I buy, what products, it's the label claim. I would say there's a good amount of companies out there that what they have on their label is not what is within the actual bottle or their container. So as a consumer, you be your own advocate. You have to really research what companies you're going to go with, go to their website, make sure it looks like it's a legit company, ask for the C of A's. Once you start taking the products, really be in tune with yourself, be in tune with your body, whether, you're taking a tincture or a food, some form of food, a gummy, or whether you're taking a cosmetic, a topical, really be in tune with, is this making me feel a certain way? Sometimes, certain products will and they won't, and that can sometimes be a little bit of a indication of maybe what they're saying is in the product is not really in the product. So really trying to research the company that you're going with and being an advocate for your own health and wellness.
Can I add something? I think in Europe, we try to educate the consumer to always look for a certificate of analysis and even a certificate of conformity, even though it's a bit more in the pharmaceutical area, and always buy it from a safe place. It's really important. And when you see the label, you can always see a label if it's not, compliant, I would say. We list our COAs on the website for each product. It's important that both, our B2B clients, but also consumers can find all the information online if necessary.
Yeah, one of the projects that GrowTech Labs is a part of is called Cannabis Quality Assurance. Of course, getting a little bit of pushback from cultivators at this point, but it's really a consumer protection initiative. I know that my circle and network will consume cannabis if they know that it's the highest quality and came from a safe supply, even above and beyond Health Canada's regulations. In some provinces here in Canada, we do have something called VQA that was really good for the small wine producers in our country. And so we are developing out a program that will be accessible for consumers to be able to go into a retail shop and say, please give me the CQA certified product. And I know that people will pay a higher price because they will trust not only the source, but the quality of the product that they're buying. And I think that is something that's really important, especially one of the conversations that is going on, I think internationally, but especially here in Canada, is how do you know that what you're getting is of good quality? And not everybody is going to either have the time or the mindset like me to become a cannabis expert, but do know what consumers deserve. And so as the industry matures, I think more programs like that will be in place.
I'd absolutely agree. Somebody's dropped into the chat here. Shout out to you, Laura. Vantage has recently achieved the ICH Q7 and WHO GMP certifications. Congratulations, making them the most certified extractor in North America with EU and NA compliance. So check them out, vantagehemp.com. Thank you for that drop in the chat there. I'll move over to Charlotte, actually. In regards, can you speak to more about the developments and obstacles with CBD, food and drink, and patient access to medical cannabis?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this kind of touches on, I guess, what we've been chatting about just now. So I think the biggest piece of the puzzle, obviously, for CBD in Europe is regulatory. And one part of the issue has been, across the European Union and, non-EU members like Switzerland and the UK as well, there's this kind of top level harmonized regulations that sort of set the tone for medical access and also consumer products regulations. So food and drink regulations, there's kind of top EU level rules, same with cosmetics and the like. And so one issue that's been kind of floating around the industry for a while now is how things are kind of regulated on this pan-EU level. And one main issue that we had last year, or that's been kind of holding up the development of the industry, is that the kind of European Commission, so the body that's kind of in charge of that EU sort of level direction, wasn't really sure how to regulate CBD. And I think, you know, we've seen the FDA having similar issues in the USA as well. But they kind of kept coming around to this issue that CBD is extracted from cannabis flower, whether that's, you know, hemp flower or, you know, cannabis itself. You know, how do we define this? How do we regulate it? And a lot of our rules kind of reference UN statutes about international drug control. They say things like, you know, you can't put things that are narcotics in your food and in your cosmetics, which makes perfect sense. But there is no actual like international definition of hemp. So you can have something coming from CBD flower, and does that count as cannabis? Like, and this is kind of an open question, and it's really open to interpretation. There's loads of different ways of looking at it. Canada says yes, the USA says no now. You know, the EU was just like, couldn't figure it out. And so we had the European Commission saying, we don't want to process CBD in food and cosmetics because we don't want to have it kind of understood as cannabis. Actually, there was a court case that was to do with basically the free sale of CBD products in France that actually ended up going to the European Court of Justice, who looked at this issue and they said, CBD isn't psychoactive, therefore we don't think it falls within the definition of narcotics, even if technically you could say, oh, it falls within this. They're like, it's not within the meaning of the law. So therefore we think it's okay for CBD to be used in these products, which has really cleared the pathway for companies to now go through and do the regulatory approvals. So now that we've got that kind of cleared through the air, the biggest issue, I think that Ulla was sort of mentioning earlier, is the novel foods regulation. And so this is a requirement that if a food is got this kind of novel ingredients, so stuff that hasn't been in there before, whether that's like a new extract or food that's been kind of treated with UV rays and stuff, they want to make sure it's basically safe to go and consume this. And so to do that and to get this approved, you have to go through a centralized approval system. The EU runs that centrally. The UK's now got a parallel system that it's using. But to do that, you need to submit a whole dossier of, you know, toxicity studies, ADME studies, production data. You know, it's very involved. It's very technical. I'm sure Laura and Ulla can talk to, you know, the kind of requirements that are there. It's not a walk in the park. So we've seen all these companies trying to engage, submit their dossiers and, you know, explain how they can conform to this. And I think now we've got a lot of applications in. Regulators are trying to sift through them all. Some companies just simply don't have that level of detail to do that. And some companies do, and we're now seeing that process walk through. So I think this is going to take a while to get properly authorized. But when it does, you'll have the regulator say, this product is safe. Like we have looked, we know that you can eat it within consumers, the toxicity levels are fine, it's safe to consume, and you can sell it on the market, it's open for free sale, there's no issue with you, you know, selling these products. And I think that will be really exciting when it comes to CBD, because like now, you know, we're telling everyone, look at your COAs, do your research, does the website look sketchy? Consumers shouldn't have to do that. We don't do that for fish products. We don't do that for vitamins. You know, we shouldn't have to have this level of distrust in the industry. And so unfortunately, you know, we've got to go through all these hurdles currently at the European level. And there's lots we can do to break down barriers around stuff like THC levels and education and the like. But I think once this works through the system, we'll really start to see an industry where you have got brands that you can trust, and you don't need to take CBD and worry whether or not it's actually, you know, got high levels of THC than you expect. So I think that will be good, and it's a lengthy process, but we're getting there. I think similarly on the kind of medical level, the biggest issue is, I think, a lack of data, really. So, you know, doctors need to be able to prescribe cannabis and to be able to trust that, and need to have conditions that there's evidence to treat it. And unfortunately, the medical establishment threshold for what counts as evidence is really high. It isn't well tailored to cannabis as a compound and as a medicine. You know, quite often they only want to look at RCT studies. They don't want to accept stuff like observational data. And so I think there's an uphill battle to try and get doctors and regulators and policymakers accepting how to treat cannabis and to understand that it is safe. And I think we are seeing that within Europe, actually. So Denmark and France are kind of running pilots where they're focused around data gathering. So, you know, showing that people aren't having severe adverse effects, that their quality of life is improving. And you can use this to then work backwards and say, yes, we've got proof of efficacy, we've got proof of safety. But it does take time. And I think it does also, to some extent, rely on cannabis companies themselves actually providing this data and running these trials and, you know, kind of engaging with patients, and not simply just cultivating a cannabis product and trying to ship it out to doctors, and doctors are saying, well, why would I choose this over another one? Like, what data have you really got to prove this? And they're just saying, oh, well, it's cannabis. So I think, you know, there's kind of work to be done there with the industry, but also a huge education piece on engaging regulators and doctors and getting them more used to this kind of observational real world data, which I think is crucial for a plant like cannabis because there's so much potential for it.
Yep, I agree. Ulla, did you want to touch on that? I see you unmuted.
I'm actually based in Denmark. I live in Denmark, so but yes, it is I think it's a bit of an issue that cultivators just focus on cultivation and not so much on engaging doctors. Luckily, here in Denmark, we have a few very, very committed doctors that gather a lot of data and has basically fought their way through a jungle. And now we've just got an extension of the program, so we can continue, I think, at least 4 years more, which is a huge win for patients. Patients are really happy, and to be honest, it's not until now that you begin seeing natural extracts on the market with the full entourage effect, whereas before it was synthetic THC tinctures. So perhaps now we'll even see, you know, even better results. That I hope very much.
Yes, I would agree. I want to switch a little bit to economics, and I think everybody will be able to touch on it. Priya, I will start with you. How do the economics of cannabis in India differ from North America?
Well, I would say massively, considering we've just woken up to the entire industry. Having said that, we already are 5,000 crore Indian rupees investment in it, including some big names like Tata Industries, Tata Foundation, who has invested. Secondly, India actually, is a little more lenient, I would like to tell you guys, when it comes to, CBD, let's begin with. About 2 to 3 states in India who have legalized medical cannabis cultivation don't have any limit on the CBD percentage. So if you can prove or you can back up the science that why do you require 35% or 80% CBD for a particular ailment, and you have your clinical trials in your country and you have an understanding, and you can support that data, you would end up getting permission. There are about 25 companies in India, as I told you, varying from hemp fiber, hemp seed up to 1000 mg THC. Now, as far as the economics are concerned or the revenue generation is concerned, it's still not systematic. The reason it's still not systematic is, yes, it's been 5 years. States are waking up to it. The implementation, there's a parliament bill that gets passed, then there is a policy that is made, and then there is an implementation. Sorry. Now, all of these three are very different steps. And, for us to actually generate revenue after getting the investment, that is get profit and, have a look at our finance books, these implementations need to happen. And, fortunately, few of the states have been very proactive, and hence most of the companies are registered there. Yet others are coming forward, and any of you, the panelists as well as the ones who are watching it, right now, are interested to venture in another country, they actually can, because I was a vice president of an Indo-Canadian pharmaceutical company before I resigned and started working for the farmers on ground, educating the patients. And, I realized that the Indian government was giving them the free land. First of all, they were giving free land to cultivate. They were giving them free electricity and free water supply, because they were getting an investment in medical technology, which was working on the issues that the government was also fighting with. So at this particular time, yes, the investments are welcome out here. Government is allowing. At the same time, if your project, if your medicines are something that even the Indian government is fighting with, let's take an example of epilepsy at the moment. We have a lot of epileptic, seizures. We have a lot of epileptic, kids around. And unfortunately, the medications which are available right now, they have very bad side effects, and we all know. CBD is a very good medication for the same. I've been in touch with Stanley Brothers myself, and I don't see any company in India actually tapping on to that particular market or the consumer. At the end of the day, one needs to have a formulation which is specific to A, the ailment, B, our genes are also a little different. No, pandemic taught us, Corona, COVID taught us that all genes are different. Rather, Indian genes, for some weird reason, were a little more resistant to the virus, and the virus ended up mutating as well out here. Right? It was one of the first few countries. So that means that if there is a formulation for these kind of ailments, or apart from that, we also have AIDS, leprosy. These are the main things that the Indian government is fighting against, right? So if any one of you have the medications, they would provide. I'm not assuring you, I'm not guaranteeing, but I have seen it for the same company I was working as a vice president. Anyone who contacts me, I'll be more than happy to share the details, because tomorrow I'll get some kind of medication help, for the people in my country who are suffering. And unfortunately, as I said, the investment to the output, there's a massive, massive difference. Yet there is hope out there. There are a lot of, organizations or cooperatives which have come out from farming, from farmers, from these, farming regions where the people barely can talk in English or could use internet, but they always knew about this particular plant because of their ancestors. Let it be, Indian cannabis, as we say, it's very famous. We have indica as well as sativa and rudra, all three in the country itself. So these people started venturing out in the market, and today they have created a small market which is 100% legit, and it's growing, with a stable speed. When I say stable speed, it's not super fast. Let's say of Canada, though. Ma'am just shared the reality that we have still not got gold rush. It was all talks. We are still waiting. We are at the horizon. India has just started seeing that light, and I'm hoping that all the ladies out here, all of us, can actually guide the country right now, because India is also a very big country. We have 28 states and 8 union territories. The last time I checked, I'm hoping last year they didn't increase again. It keeps on increasing. And that is the sad part, because then there are these many decision makers who decide if cannabis will be allowed or no. So if we can get experts like yourself, myself, in each state sitting over there, they will do that. They did it for these 8 states, as we talk. So 5,000 crore is the last number that rupees that I checked, and it's increasing every day. I know so many companies right now. There's a company called OG Hemp India. The article was there in the paper, hence I'm also stating it. They got their funding recently from Czech Republic, and they were supposed to travel as well. So India is getting funding from Canada, Czech Republic, US, and they are venturing in the market. The problem is pandemic. The last 2 years has been very difficult for everyone. Otherwise, India also launched Asia's first cannabis cigarettes, Suraya. It's called Suraya, made by India. So that's a very big step, I would say, in a certain manner. Yet again, everything is still slow, because we all know. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Barinder or Laura, can you touch on a little bit of economics from North American side? Either or?
It's difficult to say. We have such varying, like I had stated earlier, there's no federal oversight. So you really need to depend state on state on what the regulations are, whether you can sell it there, how you can sell it there. It's a nightmare to try to negotiate and to navigate, because it's 50 states with regulations that are different on how to grow it, how to extract it, how to process it, product manufacturing, labeling, testing, retailing. I've been in regulatory for over 20 years, and it's been a nightmare for me. Prior to coming here, I was consulting, and I actually developed a website as a tool to try to help people to navigate for the United States. It's cannabinoidregulations.com, and it just really lines out, what you need to know. It's virtually impossible to put all of the requirements from all 50 states onto a label. And what manufacturing company is going to put down multiple lines to put different labels onto the same product. So we really need FDA or our Congress and senators to really step up, so we can have a standardization and really start moving in the direction that we need to move.
And just really quickly, the economics of Canadian cannabis is that the number of cannabis consumers is increasing, the amount of cannabis being consumed is increasing. However, the cultivators and processors are actually making less because of taxation. The other thing that hasn't happened yet is a loyal consumer base for regulated products. The loyal consumers are still purchasing their products from their pre-legalization contacts, which I completely understand. Cannabis is such a personalized product. So from a sheer numbers point of view, if you're looking at it from a business perspective, there are no cannabis companies in the space that we're aware of right now that are actually making a profit. And government is going to have to look at that between the sin tax, which is the excise tax, and the tax on the tax with provincial either HST and GST. They've really done a disservice. So that's why, the people who are surviving versus thriving right now, it'll be interesting to see who's around in the next 12 months, because there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions going on, and unfortunately a lot of distressed assets in. So the economic story is not a good one yet here in Canada. The CBD story will be a better one just because of the price of isolate compared to the price of flower for a THC. But I think government is making a mistake in not recognizing the value of both.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree. Ulla, do you have anything to speak on in regards to the economics? I know we're kind of running short on time. We've got a couple questions. We'll have to wrap up. Did you want to touch on anything on what might be going over there?
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
It's okay. Just around the economics situation, maybe over in Switzerland, and the situation of like economics over there in the cannabis industry.
We're actually launching a recreational THC pilot program now in Switzerland. It's just got accepted and launched, and we're of course looking into this. But again, it's we kind of miss that the authorities get a better understanding of all the difficulties and all the costs associated with a program like this. They have all sorts of demands that we have to match the black market price for this pilot program, but yet we can't grow indoor. We have to grow outdoor in organic mother soil, which is literally impossible if you want a good product in the end. So it's again, I don't think they have an understanding for it. We really need regulations, and we need more experienced people to be part of taking the decisions and making the rules.
Excellent point. Excellent point. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'm just kind of going back to conversations here. It's so great because everybody's having their own little chat on the side, which is quite lovely. So not necessarily directed by anybody, but everybody is collabing and connecting. We've got lots of people from Portland, a few others. I'm just trying to source through here where the question was. I think we touched a little bit on this, but what is the biggest industry challenges at the moment when it comes to quality assurance and testing? Does anybody want to take that maybe didn't touch on it already? Ulla, is that you?
we just experience a lot of difficulties. It's like a jungle. It's like a new industry again popping up in connection with cannabis. We can literally send CBD isolate 99.4 for analysis at 3 different labs, and one of them will come back and say THC is in there. I'm like, no, that's simply not possible. But so again, we need some kind of quality assurance for the labs, and it's a jungle for even us to navigate in. Even we deliver bulk ingredients to Australia. Then they sometimes come back to us and tell us, well, your CBD isolate, it's only 94.5. And I'm like, well, we're hardly able to crystallize it into a powder if it's 94.5. So that's not possible. And yet they say, well, it's a recognized lab here in Australia, recommended by the authorities. So it's like there's no, how do you say, common denominator there for testing. We need to know how do we ensure that we get the same results when we send out tests in one country or batches in one country and then in another country, but we get completely different results. Very frustrating.
I'm going to move it over to you, Laura, because this was actually one of our questions that we had for the conversation. Similar to this is, what are the difficulties that come with balancing 50 varying sets of regulations for CBD with maintaining quality assurance and testing?
And it's just what she was saying. I mean, I've just been in this industry 3 years, and I really thought by now, like, when I started 3 years ago and there wasn't one competent contract lab out there, you're like, all right, well, it's a new industry, they're going to catch on. And we are still pulling our hair out trying to find any lab that can come back with any good results. It's just, I've been here, I think, 6 weeks, and we have probably vetted out 6 labs that are not competent. So it's utterly frustrating. I don't understand. I know I spoke at USP last year, and that was one of the frustrations we vented to them, that there needs to be standardized testing.
Absolutely agree to that. Does anybody have any additional insight that you would like to share? I want to thank you so much on behalf of Marigold PR, the WWC team, for all of you speakers today to join the international panel. You brought so much great insight. I know our team has dropped your social handles for everybody to connect. Is there any closing remarks for anybody? Priya, I'm going to turn it over to you. Any closing remarks for our audience today?
Well, thank you for the opportunity again. And I would just like to say that, as I said earlier, India is just waking up to it, and everyone is welcome. The beauty of it right now is most of the states are open at national and international businesses, and the contracts are given equally to national and international businesses in cannabis industry in India. So in case you are interested to venture into, the country where all the 3 strains are naturally available, we have 1,500 plus cataloged indigenous strains. You guys are welcome to venture, and I'll be more than happy to show you around.
Thank you. Anything from you, Charlotte? Any closing remarks?
Yeah, I guess just to say, it's been really fantastic working in the industry this last few years, and kind of being able to see the experience from North America and how that's developed, and sort of seeing how lessons can be applied in Europe, or / how they shouldn't be applied in Europe. I think for all of its issues, and that's not to say there aren't a lot, I think Canada has been really exemplary and influential, I think, on the European circuit in terms of it being a G7 country that's federally legalized and has gone through this kind of, I think I would agree it's over-regulated, but a regulated market. And I think, that's very influential in how countries are kind of looking to apply that. I think there's a huge amount of potential for Europe to kind of really develop as a kind of cannabis industry and as a cannabis kind of like destination. I think what we haven't really seen yet is the destigmatization of THC so much. I think CBD, that conversation has done so much to normalize conversations around cannabis and the plant and hemp. I think what the next stage is, and what I'm really looking forward to, is once we kind of get into starting to see sort of recreational legalization, as Ulla mentioned, is happening in Switzerland. We've got pilots happening in the Netherlands as well. It's far from perfect. There's so many issues with them. But I think what we'll start to really see is this kind of birth of the European kind of cannabis consumer, where we can own being a stoner and own loving the industry and loving THC, and kind of watching that take its own sort of European stint and its own kind of like character. And that, I think, for me, is what I'm really excited in, and hopefully it's what we'll kind of start to see over the next couple of years.
Beautiful, thank you. Barinder or Laura, I think our host is coming on now, but any closing remarks, Barinder?
Just hoping that international leaders do take a look and take direction from even the UN's pivots and recognition of cannabis I think there needs to be more of a global conversation, and hope Canada will be at the table to lead that so that we can share our experiences. And thank you, everybody. Just amazing conversation today.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been such a pleasure, and it's been great to meet all you.